Oh, hey guys, Mickey with CarryTrainer.com, and today we are going to talk about the Gen 5 Glock 19, specifically the combo that comes with the AIMPOINT COA. We're going to shoot it a little bit. I'm going to talk about some pros, some cons, and what I dig about it. You guys ready? Let's do it. You know, I thought about starting this video with my sweet range hat, but I thought it might distract you with its awesomeness, so we'll stick with the Super Vel ball cap and get down to business. So I've got some loaded up magazines and, most importantly, the pistol itself. I saw this at SHOT Show last year. SHOT Show, if you're unfamiliar, is the annual trade show that's gone on for many, many years, put on by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, all things shooting. And I saw this out there and I was like, okay, whatever, a new Glock. Which, not bragging, I probably own 20 to 30 Glocks in various configurations. The fact that I don't know that is a little shameful, not the point. This one, though, comes with the AIMPOINT COA. And if you look at it, you're like, okay, whatever, a new boxy closed emitter red dot. I looked at it, what's everybody talking about? But then I paid a little bit more attention. The gun itself, other than the mount, is a basic Gen 5 Glock 19. Ships with a couple of 15-round magazines, as well as a couple specific little tools, which I will show you during the video, for the AIMPOINT COA. So I took some notes, did some shooting with this thing. I ran a course that I was instructing and used this as my pistol. I've done nothing to it. The gun is bone stock. The one thing that I will be doing is I've got Tango Down shipping me the ambi slide lock, and there's nobody behind the camera, so slow your roll. We're going to be putting the ambi slide lock on here just because it's easier for me. Some of you old cats will be like, that is a slide lock, not a release. Take it easy. Tell your mom I said hello. So first off, let's just get down to some nitty gritty. The COA is a collaboration with Glock. Right now, unless you're some super special person, you can't purchase this optic all by itself. It fits the G43X, the 48, the 47, the 45, and the 19. By fits, they are making it for those firearms. It's a 3.5 MOA dot. So for some of us, if we don't know exactly what that means, MOA, minute of angle, like mils, milliradians, is a angular measurement. Basically, I think the simplest way to look at this is if you were shooting and you put this dot out on a target 100-ish yards away, that dot would occlude or appear about 3.5 inches, 3.6 some odd inches on the target. Which means that if I was about 10 yards from the target, don't get wrapped around the axle on this, about 10 yards from the target, that dot would appear to be about 0.35 inches, or about 1/3 of an inch, right? About that big it would look on the target. Which means if you were 10 yards from a target and you were trying to shoot, say, a target paster, which is about 7/8 of an inch, that dot would cover up about half the target paster. It's kind of interesting to think about, and it's helpful to understand. So they chose the 3.5 MOA dot. Something else that's noteworthy. So just at first glance, this looks like it's just another repackaged dot. And what I mean by that is there are a ton of budget dots on the market that when you break them apart, they're all pretty much the same thing. It's like if you go to Walmart and you get like 10 cheap coffee makers and you pull them apart, they're all going to be the same little bits inside. This is different. So the Acro and some other dots that AIMPOINT came out before this basically have a tube inside. And as you make adjustments, that whole tube is moving on different axes, I don't know. But it's moving that whole tube. Basically what they did here, the little LED emitter in there that's shooting that little laser beam up there for you to see. I know I said laser beam, but I just mean that little dot of light. These little adjusters, as you adjust them, are quite literally moving that tiny little emitter. And each click valuation is 1 MOA. 1 MOA, which means if I'm at 100 yards and I make one click, I'm going to move my point of impact about an inch, right? If I'm at 10 yards, I'm going to move it about 1/10 of an inch. So a little tiny adjustment. kind of neat. And part of why that's important is they were able to shrink this dude down. That's cool. Something else that's nice about this, it's got an external battery tray, so you don't have to dismount the optic from the gun to swap the battery. We'll talk more about that a little bit in a second. This is about 28 millimeters wide, and the window itself is about 15 millimeters across. It's pretty good size. I'm going to show you a couple of other dots that I've got in my bag here to make a comparison to like a standard Trijicon or like a big SRO, and then also to one of the other small concealed carry optics from Holosun. We'll show you a little comparison. It's got the CR2032 battery, and when it's at an optimal runtime, Aimpoint's suggesting that this sucker should run for 5 years. Now, if you've got this dude at full brightness, it's not going to last 5 years. That's not my opinion. Their literature supports that. Pretty cool technology here. So some people, and there's nobody out here with me, so don't freak out about the muzzle. Some people do not appreciate the buttons being so exposed. What if I push on them? And it happened on other optics. What's interesting about this one is in order to make an adjustment, the first button push basically opens up the program for you then to make adjustments. So first push says, okay, it's unlocked. Then the subsequent pushes allows you to make adjustments, which means that just an accidental button push against your tummy or holster or while you're manipulating the gun won't do it. You'll have to push it a couple of times. It's got some neat features like that. So talking about the brightness setting, if you had this sucker cranked up to max brightness, or any brightness level for that matter, after a couple of hours of being left on and not being used or jostled, it's going to start dimming itself every couple of hours to take itself into like an optimal battery life mode. That's kind of nice to think about. I have not had that cause a problem because I'm using the thing. So I haven't just set it down. So it hasn't posed an issue for me where I picked it up and had to crank on it. I'm looking at my notes here so I don't forget anything important that I wanted to talk about with you. This thing is made to be waterproof down to about 80 feet. So for most of us, we look at that, we're like, yeah, cool, man, I'm not going swimming. Well, think about who else uses these, right? By and large, most of my friends that served at high levels of special operations or as an assaulter, some guy that was actually out doing the deed as a Green Beret, a Navy SEAL, a Ranger, something like that, a PJ or a JTAC or something in the Air Force, they like these guns. They like Glock 19, 45, 17 style guns because they're super reliable. So it's not hard to imagine a Navy SEAL, a MARSOC Marine, somebody like that swimming and having to go underwater with one of these things and expect it to still work. So 80 feet underwater, being out on a rainy day, unlike this beautiful early July day, shouldn't pose any type of an issue. The mount on this thing. So this is what's really cool. So Aimpoint, one of the reasons I wanted this, Aimpoint is by far my favorite red dot. I've got rifles with them on there for years and years. I used to hunt with some fellas in Michigan 20 plus years ago, and one of those guys had a beautiful shotgun, slug barrel on it, and he had a really old Aimpoint. I mean, it was as old as I am. Aimpoint's been around since 1975, and according to Aimpoint, they invented the red dot sight. There's some other companies that have been around a while, but Aimpoint really invented back in 1975. I'm 47 years old. This thing's, not this, but that company is older than me. They're celebrating 50 years. That's a long freaking time. In my opinion, they make the best as far as durability, quality, dot brightness, glass clarity, all of those things, primo. They cost, right? They cost, but the old buy once, cry once matters. So what'd they do? They came up with this mounting system, which is really the weak point for a lot of weapon-mounted pistols, pistol optics. Oftentimes, there's just a couple of screws. Many times, those screws are not high quality. Many times, those screws are over-torqued or under-torqued. Many times, those screws maybe are running too tight. I just had a guy send me a video just today, and I see this on the range every couple months. A guy will grab the wrong screws out of a pack, run them in, and they impede the internals of, say, a Glock and make it not work. You got to take the slide apart, take those screws out, and swap them out. Hopefully there was no damage to the slide if that happens. Well, none of that exists here because there's no screws directly going through this.
Mounting stability and inconsistent sight alignments were massive challenges to overcome. Until now. The 8-cut mounting system slides the sight forward into place and features a rear wedge, securing the sight in all axes, meaning ultimate reliability and maximum performance. Locking the sight into place with unwavering stability and consistency, the COA endures 40,000 rounds, vastly outperforming other industry standards.
You see in the graphic that I borrowed from AIMPOINT's YouTube channel, very ingenious design. We've got these multiple slots, and if we think about the way that the slide reciprocates, right, moving like so, most of, or rather the lion's share of the energy, it's happening right here, right, as that slide shoots back. Those forces are going to be inserted or diffused through this connection. What's also super ingenious is how they made this cut, whereas that rear sight is installed, screwed in, torqued specifically. I think 18 inch-pounds is what they're looking for that. And I also believe that there's going to be some thread lock around there. I did not take this off. I zeroed it in about 30 seconds, but this is what this sucker's all about as far as a mount is concerned. Now, you might look at this and say, well, what about all the other mounts that are out there? Look, things come and go, guys. In the time that I've been shooting, I mean, everything was Weaver, right? You'd go to a gunsmith and have them put a Weaver rail on your pistol, and then it became a Picatinny rail, and so on and so forth. Things change, things evolve. This is a much better way to do this. And this is exciting because you look at how far these have come. They're only going to get better over time. Somebody saw the picture I shared of this last week and they're like, it's ugly. I want to talk about that. Who cares? I mean, think about this. Let me show you something. Let me show you something here. So this old dude spent years in the carpentry trade, right? And even though I no longer work as a carpenter, I still carry stuff like this. This was actually a gift from my lady. This is a 14-ounce titanium stiletto. In the other drawer, I've got one that I've owned for 25 years. Stiletto hammers, some of you know what they are. It's titanium. It's an expensive hammer as far as hammers goes. This is a waffle-headed framing hammer. I've got another one that's a smoothie that I normally use. If you know how to drive nails, you don't need a waffle head. But it's not pretty. It's basically an axe handle with a big monster titanium head. It costs money. You can break it if you don't know what you're doing. You can hurt yourself. I've seen guys blow their thumbs up with these. It's a tool. It's a tool designed for a very specific job for a professional, right? For a professional. I still carry a hammer around because I find myself doing stuff from time to time where I need one, helping people, etc. And by the way, make no mistake, I've used a hammer to help get somebody out of a vehicle, pry something, break some glass. As far as prying is concerned, don't use a wood hammer handle, but use what you got in a pinch if you have to. This is a hammer. I don't care what it looks like. Nothing needs to be said about the 19 Gen 5. This is bone stock. It's got a very workable trigger. The 5s have the slightly flared magwell. They've got an ambidextrous slide lock. It's a Glock, right? The sights that come on here sit awful low, which is cool by me. They sit awful low. I'm going to crank this dot up and see if we can get an image for you. Let's see. There we go. So you can see the dot, and I've got that cranked up. The dot is definitely not that big, but that's what the camera's making it look like. The sights sit below it. They're blacked out so as to not be a distractor. Why'd I grab the 19? and not the 45 or 43X. I'm partial to the 19s. I've spent most of the time I have been shooting combat style pistols. 19, I've got more time through these than anything. I've got mountains of magazines for them. Just a side note, to me, it's always nice that I can grab a larger magazine like this Extendo for a 17, or, you know, if you really want to, you got the 33 round Glock stick that fits in there. Of course, that means you can do the same with a G26, just a little side note. So the way that they put this mount together seems like it's going to be a lot more durable. There's no screws going down into the slide to fail. It's the way it's sitting on there, as that rear sight drives forward as you take the screws in, it's pushing that thing, that sight down into the shape that they left on top of there. Very ingenious. And it does it in a way that even if everything's not perfect, that dude's jammed in there really good. I've got maybe 1,500 rounds through this thing, and we're going to shoot it some today. Why don't we grab our eyes and ears and get that done? As always, I've got my super high quality Tactical RX, lovely family business from out in Colorado. And if you guys haven't noticed, sun's out, guns out, baby boys. It is a beautiful day. Why should we not be comfortable? One of my best friends, Dan Hart, Hart Jiu-Jitsu, my home gym here in Woodstock, Illinois. If you're in the Northern Illinois area, come check out Hart Jiu-Jitsu. Anyway, let's run a few rounds. Super Bell ammunition. I'm running today the Tenacore. This is their ARX, I believe it's called. I love that holster. Super sturdy, super durable, and I've actually got Tenacore's belt on today as well. Piece of TA target steel. We're at about 15 yards. Let's do this. Bring that dot brightness up a little bit for me. You know, you guys have watched me for a while. Those of you that have, see, I love irons. I've got plenty of dot guns. I'm still going to show you those comparisons to those other dots. I've got plenty of dot guns. I just love the simplicity of irons, but if you're going to do a dot, buy a good one. And you got to train with it. You can't just pick it up and think it's going to naturally appear in your eye line. Spin the camera angle around. Let's try something like this. We got that little head swinger out there at 15 yards. Tac mag action. I've got Glocks tuned by Boresight Solutions. I've got Glocks that have Apex and Ghost triggers and other high quality triggers. This bone stock gun doesn't need much if you can grip the gun properly. If you grip the gun properly, she'll do the job. Well, that's fun. Grab my rangefinder. So one of the advantages to red dot sights is our ease of aligning them. There's a lot of instructors out there running RDS classes, and I'm not making fun of them. Some of these guys are my friends, and it is something that you need to learn if you don't understand. But probably none of you that have a red dot on your rifle went to a red dot rifle course, but for some reason you need to with a pistol. It's all about our ability to put the gun in the same spot in front of our face over and over again, unlike the rifle where we have a cheek weld. So as we're aging, and now in my late 40s, I'm starting to see some diminished up close vision, right? Why we old people end up with readers, and I'm fighting it. I can still see my front sights, but it does make it more difficult to see as we need readers. My vision is corrected. These are corrective lenses. So now I'm going to guess 50-ish yards. Let's just take a peek. Not too bad. I'm at 54. I can see perfect. I have perfect 20/20 corrected vision in my good eye. A dot just helps us have to do less focusing, less focal shifting than we do if we've got front and rear sights and a target. And if I've got corrective vision, I don't need to try to focus if I need readers up close. And you could say, well, just get bifocals. It's hard to see through bifocals far away too. It gets muddy. So these become an easier thing to see at distance. All right, so 54 yards, easy peasy, right? Stock gun. So 54 yards, easy peasy, stock gun. Let's walk it out a little bit more. We'll walk it out a little bit more. So nobody's out here with me. Don't freak out and be like, oh my God, he's walking around with a camera on a gun. Just take it easy. Private property, gates, the whole nine, baby. How was the 4th for you guys? You know, as I'm walking out here, I'm pretty excited. We are going to be in Washington tomorrow. Headed out to Washington. We've got, depending on when you watch this, we've got 5 days of classes near Seattle. And then on to Michigan after that for a 3-day rifle pistol class. And then we've got Illinois, I think maybe mixed in there near Chicago for 5 days of classes as well. I would venture to say I'm a little over a Hondo here. Let's take a peek. Oh, 127. I do need to move slightly. About right there. So we're at about 127. See if you guys can hear the steel. There we go. So 127 yards, Super Vel ammunition, stock 19 with the new COA Optic, easy peasy. Of course, you got to know your zero. I zeroed this at 25 yards. Why 25? I think it gives you a very nice trajectory, a wide opportunity to not have to deviate, which we call a point blank, right? Read about that a little bit. Let me show you these comparison optics. All right, there's the AIMPOINT, the new COA, compared to an RMR. And one of the reasons that it's actually even lower is because it sits deeper into the slide. You see that? It sits deeper into the slide, which is cool. So there it is with an RMR. How about this? Here's the big old SRO. I've got this one on a beautiful PX4 Storm, sexified by Langdon. And that's a big old window on there. It's a big old window. But it's not like hugely different. It's not like, oh my God, it's the best window ever. And now let's take a look at the little EPS carry from Hollow Sun, another sexified gun from Boresight Solutions, P365. So check that out. You know, I think sometimes our argument about like the best window, what you got to find is what works good on your gun, what you can keep working, what you can afford, right? What you can afford. Some of this stuff is not cheap. That's not lost on me. Guys that are like, oh, you got to have XYZ. Well, sure, man. There were times in my life I couldn't afford freaking diapers, let alone all this stuff. So I get that. Here's my final synopsis. I think that this yet again is another high quality fighting pistol, right? These things are not made to be anything other than this hammer. It's a utilitarian tool, but there is a beauty in the simplistic design. And some of you guys will hate on Glock for whatever reason. Do it, man. Do it. At the end of the day, some shit needs pounding. No mom jokes here. And the reliability, the cost, all of those things do add up. Some of this stuff gets really expensive, like I just said, when you start adding all these bits and pieces. I love the closed emitter versus these open emitter designs. You get stuff falling down in these open emitters, and it's really a pain in the ass. It's really a pain in the ass to keep them working. I like the idea of not having to take the battery off, which is really starting to, make sense to some engineers, to take the optic off to swap the battery. I really love the mounting system, how simplistic it is. Not from a machining standpoint, but for the end user. Put it on there, tighten those screws, proper torque specs, thread locker, done deal, and how everything indexes up and you can just zero up. By the way, when I zeroed this, I think it probably took me a half a dozen rounds and it was dialed in. So from the factory, it was pretty tight and right. No crazy movements. You might notice no witness marks on here. My ink pen dried out. I think it's always a good idea to put witness marks on there. I told you I was going to mention something else. The battery compartment, I don't really love that there is nothing capturing that screw. I have not heard of any of them failing, but I'm going to witness mark this. I'm going to witness mark the adjustment screws and the screws here. Parting words. Anytime you're using anything like this as a life-saving tool, check the equipment. Check the equipment before you leave home. Check the equipment once a week. Spend the time, unload it, wipe it down, check the screws, check the torque specifications, check to make sure parts are not out of spec or falling apart. I'll tell you what, there has been multiple times that I have dismantled a gun for cleaning and seen that a spring or some component is at the end of its life, or worse yet, has already broke, but the gun is able to keep functioning. This is like, this could be various things that I'm talking about. Something's already collapsed and failed, but you just haven't seen it until you've taken it all apart. Hope to see you guys in class. CarryTrainer.com. Check out Hart Jiu-Jitsu in Woodstock, Illinois, if you like to train or you want to train, or if you're interested in expanding your capabilities beyond the gun. Be well. Don't be dickheads. See you soon.